Test. Test, test. Oh, there we go. I was on the wrong thing. I had to change some, or make a new scene here. Because I'm trying a new live stream today. I have all different cameras and stuff, and like I have a scene for my tablet drawing, and I have a scene for my painting. There's a camera behind me that's like higher up, so you can see bigger paintings. But I wanted to do some sketchbook practice here. This is my sketchbook, one of my smaller ones, and it's not a place of fine art and very rendered of things, but it's kind of where I work out my ideas, and that's exactly what I'm doing today. I have a new commission piece that I've started, and I'm working out thumbnails and the way I want to lay it out and values I'm also just gonna be doing some reference studies for the things that the person wants in the paintings. I gotta study some flowers, and there's a truck, an old rusted kind of Americana Ford truck. So yeah, to get to it, I also have some watercolors over here that I'm going to have out, because sometimes I like to just color them up. Gives me a better idea. I'm working with a new camera today that allows me to have a little bit more freedom with zooming and stuff. So that's gonna be cool. Oh, I realize I'm on the wrong chat screen here. You guys, there we go. Now I can see what y'all are typing. And yeah, so I can use that. But I'm gonna go over here to this screen down here. This is my I kind of use spare watercolor paper to test out my colors. I am very new to watercolor, by the way, so don't expect pro watercolor moves here. I'm still learning it. I'm better with the acrylics right now. I have more hours in that. But I've recently really fallen in love with the way pen and ink works with watercolor, and how I just like the style of doing a complete pen and ink drawing before I even color it, and even with the cross hatching and everything. I just like the way it looks. I like working on ideas like that. Love the new camera. What's up, Stephanie? It's actually my cell phone, and there's an app you can get that turns it into a webcam, so I get the full functionality of the 4K iPhone camera, which we all know is very nice. So I gotta go over here and get my watercolors. This table isn't in its final iteration yet. I gotta figure out how to get it from moving so much. But just gonna get out some of my watercolors here. My brushes, watercolors, which I already have portioned out in there, and a spray bottle. Be good. Can everyone hear me alright, by the way? With the music and voice and all. I've gotten it to a point where I don't really have to touch the settings, so I'm hoping it's remaining consistent. Anyway, this is my full portable setup here. Can't really get it all on the camera right now, but it's pretty much got everything that I would want while I'm on the go to my favorite portable mediums. Got all my inks here. This is all watercolors and gouache, and I like watercolors and gouache. They're very portable, easy to clean up. For that particularly, when I'm home here, I like to do the heavier mediums like acrylic, and also my tablet, which I can't bring around with me yet. Someday I will have an iPad Pro though, which will be awesome, but that's a long time away for me. And yeah, so I'm gonna get that out. Let's see, anything else? I already have some water I've been using, so it'll be fine. Oh yeah, I'll take out the gouache. So I have my gouache here. It's just a basic set, red, yellow, blue, green, white, black. That's really all you need anyway. Set that over here. Brushes out. Get this out of the way. Get drawing. So today I'm intending to do just very fast, kind of 10-15 minute sketches each. And actually, I wonder if I can put the mic. Sorry about that. Can you hear me all right? With the mic there. I prefer to have these on this side, because I'm a lefty. If it's even gonna work. I've kind of had to rearrange my setup today, so. And let me try the zoom here. So I want to be able to get, so I have it like that. That'll be close enough. I mean, I can go as close as I want, which is cool. But, anyway. I'll try to work with that setup. If this gets in the way, then that'll be fine. Actually, you know what? I changed my mind. I'm gonna put it over here. Because that's why I have that camera, right? Okay. So, off screen over here, I have my references, some references that were sent to me by the person. Hey, what's going on, Tiff? Good to see you here. It's been a while. Today I'm having fun in the sketchbook. Watercolors, pen and ink. Way too long. I've worked on some of your streams here and there, but it's been a while since I've actually streamed myself. I think I was looking on my content. It said it was basically 12 days. I think it's been. Anyway, I'm glad to see you here. Thanks for hopping in. Today I recently got a new commission piece, so right in the start of it, and basically I'm working out the ideas, the placement. Very rough. I don't like to spend a lot of time on these drawings, and basically just working out the placement and the values. And so far, I personally like this one and this one. But I'm going to do a lot more before I actually decide. I also have to do some reference studies, so. This client wants blue bonnet flowers and Indian paintbrushes, they're called. It always feels like less. I hate when it says that, yeah. That part's more superior. And as you can see, I like to toss color into my little pen and ink sketches sometimes. That's why I have my watercolor palette today. I don't think I'm gonna color them all, but yeah. Anyway, let's get drawing. So I've recently fallen in love with fountain pens. I don't think I'm ever gonna use any other type of pen. I have two kinds. This one does very fine lines, and this one's called a fube nib. As you can see, I don't know if it's focused enough, but it's bent. And if I zoom in there, oops. Oh, it's nice having the zoom. But you can see it's bent there on the bottom. And what that allows me to do is do these nice, cool, like, thick lines, like that. And it's awesome. Different line weights. Most of the magic happens with this one, though. Anyway. So, get zoomed in here a little better. These are tiny. It's a tiny sketchbook. That's why I like working with fine pen. I can fit a lot of small drawings in one. Oh man, this is great. I recently learned to figure out my iPhone to make it a webcam, and the quality is superior to my other two shitty webcams by far. So very happy about that working out. Yeah, you can turn your iPhone into a webcam. It's an app called Epic Cam. And to unlock the HD on it, yeah, it's like $8. And you have it, you own it permanently. It's great. It is great. Not sponsored by Epic Cam, but I personally bought it myself and it's great. It's so easy. Oh, that's the other thing. If you have to download a driver on your computer so your computer recognizes it. And the other cool part about it is it does it in Wi-Fi. So if you can either go USB or Wi-Fi. And I'm using Wi-Fi currently right now. So it's going through my router or my modem and then back to my computer right now. And it's as you can tell, it's smooth. It's like 60 frames per second. It's amazing. Anyway, so I've been really studying a lot of perspective. I'm trying to figure out how to get some fisheye into my drawings here. Not so much, just a little bit of a twist. So I've been doing little construction lines. It helps me a little bit. But basically, even that was a bit much of a curve, but along those lines there. But anyway, I'm going to bring up the reference I have of this house, which I forgot to do before I started the stream. It'll take me 1 second here. Because particularly, she wants the house in this painting. So I gotta get the house somewhat similar here. And, yeah. Actually, you know what? Excuse me. Let's see. Drawings. There we go. Got this nice picture here of it. Alright. It's got a tin roof. Let's see. I'm trying to do something different every time. So, there's also a truck. I'm going to get that up too. Let's see. I want to get that truck right. Get that truck in my brain. Yeah, it's freaking awesome. I'm probably going to end up not using any of my other cameras ever again, because the quality is way too good. Way too good. Let's see. Getting there, guys. Sorry about that. I'm going to be drawing for a while, so I am in no rush. I think I sent the pictures to myself. Excuse me. Yep, I did. I like this nice 3/4 view here. Study this one. So I decided I'm just going to study this truck here in this perspective. Miami, this camera might shake around a little bit because of the nature of how I have it mounted, but I'm going to try to keep still. So what's cool about this truck, it has no wheels, and it's kind of vanishing off this way. And I'm just going to get some grass silhouette going here. And I've grown to sketch with pen, because I find myself getting too caught up on erasing, and I don't move on from the drawings fast enough, and I'm trying to be more confident with my lines, and it just makes me decide more. I feel like I'm too indecisive with pencil. I mean, of course, when I'm working something out that I want to be very accurate, I will do that. But in this case, I'm just trying to get a feel for it. And I love these 3/4 view cars. They're really fun to try to get right. Very challenging. Lots of these like smooth shapes. Been on such a heavy art quest lately. I've been observing everything trying to get new shapes in my head, and just been absorbing so many YouTube videos and new tricks, and that was a bit big of a hump, but that's okay. This isn't about getting it perfect. And I want to be bringing my perspective into these drawings to the best of my ability. That should have been more like there. It's okay. And this, I want this to get just that slight stylistic kind of fisheye going on. And then shoot that off to the vanishing point, and I'm going to have the bottom here cut off by grass. And see, I've already made a mistake. This should have been a little bit higher, and we have the wheel well here, which I'm just going to make a mess there. That's fine. Toss in the window. And see, I'll take an opportunity to study a picture of a blue bonnet here. Toss a couple small ones that come up. The foreground kind of have these cool little round flowers. It's like they almost look like they're like clustered, like this, and they kind of have this like bud thing at the top. Looks kind of like a pine cone. And any of the leaves they have on the bottom, they're kind of sharp like that. And just draw a couple more of these. I know, I'm always watching art videos, and maintaining it eventually is magically going to make me improve. Yeah, I can't relate enough with that. Like, I've been trying to really stop myself these days of falling into the trap of the endless content hole, where there's just, like, I feel like I'm just watching artists more than practicing sometimes, but there is a time to watch those artists that I find very helpful. Like, I've learned so much from it. I'm just trying to get, maintain that balance of going back and forth from applying and watching. I've actually started growing a habit of drawing while listening, unless I really have to pay attention. There's a lot of great teachers on YouTube that kind of do these live streams, and I just listen to them talk while I draw and kind of look back and forth, and it really helps me. It really does. So this is one of the things I really enjoy, the challenge of pen and ink right here, is you can have you have these little grass stalks. And I gotta think about the negative space more. And I've developed all sorts of little ways and tricks of trying to do this. And some of the best way to do it, the best ways to do it, I think, or one of the best ways, is to create just kind of all these little random weed shapes, but to always avoid your lines when just never touch them. And all of a sudden, it starts creating all these cool little patterns and things. It's one of those things you gotta play with to kind of get a grip on. And so I'm gonna be mindful here of the curve of this fisheye, because the thing is, without doing man-made structures, basically there's not a lot of straight edges in nature, so the fisheye effect, you gotta kind of pull it out in the textures of things and the way it arcs around. Anyway, hey Sly guys, welcome. What's going on? Welcome to the stream. Doing sketchbook work here today. This is my kind of more private sketchbook. I mean, I upload a lot of what you see in it on Instagram, but basically doing little sketches to get my commission going here, my ideas going. I've honestly used to dive into this stuff more than I would plan them out, which I still like to do improvised stuff. But when it comes to going for something specific that needs to look a certain way, I like to play around with ideas for a few days, 3, 4, even a week, before I come up with a solid idea in my head. And basically, that's what helps me. the more I do that, the more I can improvise and do it on the spot without having to think anything. So I don't want to fill in too much value here, but I'm also keeping in mind when I do these thumbnails, I try to keep it to 3 to 4 values at the absolute maximum. That's the other thing I'm trying to train myself. So I decide where I want to place the lightest thing, then a mid-tone, and then a dark tone. And if I shade within any of those 3 categories, I really try to keep those values as close as I possibly can to those categories. So for example, if this sky is going to be completely white, if I wanted to throw clouds in, I would be very, very close to the values I could be of the lightest color. And it tends to make things feel more organized through my experimentation. And of course, I've learned this from studying myself from many artists that are 10 million times better than me. And because what can happen is when you use the entire value range all the time, everything can kind of be yelling at you and basically, hey man, I appreciate you following. Everything can kind of be saying too many things, and what happens is there's too smooth of a transition from the foreground to the background, which kind of, it takes like the contrast out, and I realize the more I can separate those values, the more depth I have in my paintings and my drawings. It especially is important in landscapes when you're doing wide angle lenses and things where you can see really far out, or crazy far out vanishing points and things. So before I fill my horizon line here, I want to throw in the Blue Bonnet House as well. I want to study this house and this truck as many times as I possibly can. Oh, you know, I actually do want to hop back to the truck because I want to see how the door is. Okay, so that the last couple times I studied it, I put 2 doors on it, so it's actually a 1 door. And kind of goes down here, and it goes in my drawing. It's gonna go below the grass. Do the handle. That'll be fine. And this picture I'm studying from is a super overcast day, so I'm gonna keep it overcast for now. No problem. I like watching other artists. Me too, man. I'm addicted. Basically, if I wasn't streaming right now, I'd just have YouTube rolling on its algorithm. All sorts of art. I just keep that stuff rolling along. I'm going to close my palette over here until I'm ready to use it. Hopefully keep stuff as white as possible for as long as possible. Okay, can I keep going here? Happy with that truck. And the other thing that I've been really trying to improve on, and the second I started doing it, I noticed the improvement, was to stop copying things exactly. So even if I'm doing a reference study, no matter what, I always try to interpret something into my own every single time. Like, sure, we can make exceptions to where, if you're studying anatomy, you really got to learn a bone, you got to learn a muscle. It's worth it to learn it exactly in that case. But even then, when you start getting into characters and dynamic poses and foreshortening, you're going to have to learn to manipulate those shapes anyway. So I'm finding that it's doubling my speed and getting better. I'm not saying doubling, you can't really put a number to it, but I'm just noticing an acceleration in my improvement when it comes to always trying to interpret a little detail. So what I do is as I'm drawing, I'll make sure I look away from the reference 5-10 seconds at a time, 30 seconds at a time, and try to memorize what I just saw. And I'm feeling that muscle get stronger, and I'm feeling my library increase, and I guess that's how I've decided to approach it. So I'm going to have the Blue Bonnet House on the left here, and I'm going to have it more of a front view than I've had in this one, just to see. And I'm going to remember that I'm not going to draw in the guidelines, but I am going for a runaway 3-point. So I'm not going to curve it back on the top and make it 4-point on this one. I'm going to just keep one 3-point. And I'm kind of visualizing my 3-point right about here. If it was on the table, if I could draw it on the table, it would be like that dot. So if I was vanishing my stuff, it'd be down to that dot, like off the table. That's kind of how I've practiced it. I'll kind of just pick something that I see off the side of the sketchbook to achieve those more realistic vanishing point distances. Because if you've played with, if anyone here has played with perspective, you know that when the vanishing points are close, things start getting warped. So this house has a protruding 3 chimneys on it, and I still want that to be seen here, but it's going to be less harsh of an angle. So maybe push the house out a little bit more so we can see it. So I'm going to vanish the chimney off to about there. And I'm going to make the house a little bit smaller. Another thing I've been thinking about a lot lately in my drawings is ratio. And it's so important to recognize, you know, this is twice the size as this, 3 things fit in here. You know, like the human body, the forearm has the same length as the upper arm. And I'm finding those ratios everywhere else, even in random studies. So this finishing point is going to be much less harsh here. Well, actually, you know what? I've gone and already set myself up bad by drawing the chimney like that. But I'm going to fix that by making the chimney much thinner here. I'm just going to color it in, and then I'm going to draw another edge and bring this edge out. And I'm just going to leave that side for the roof. So I'll make it a little taller. The roof's going to come down right about there. I'm going to bring this house below the horizon so that it doesn't look like it's a mountain in the distance. I'm realizing there's all these good places you can pick to place things on the horizon. And so bringing this down, I'm going to vanish that back. Vanish that back. Kind of set it in the grass a little bit. And I'm not going to completely draw the bottom. Going to vanish it out to about there. Now I'm looking away right now. And so I'm actually going to bring this out a little bit less. About that is where it needed it to be. And the 3-point, it's still going towards the dot this way. But we're close to the center of the page, so it's going to be subtle. I don't want the 3-point to be too crazy. But I always love a little 3-point. And I messed up there by not doing this line first. And this is going to drop down here. I'm going to fix this. Going to add grass. Vanish that out there. And a good old way to fix pen and ink errors sometimes is just make a harsh lighting situation where it allows you to shade in the side that you're wrong with. Hey! There she is. Good to see you here, Auntie. We are working out ideas for the painting itself. Yeah, so basically in the beginning stages here, where I've been working out all different little thumbnails. You remember to zoom out there. And what I like to do is just draw it a bunch of times before I decide on what I want to do with it. So I'm just going through and I'm placing the truck in the house in different spots, trying different camera angles, different horizon levels, looking up, looking down, all sorts of things. All sorts of things. Yeah, this one's one of my favorites here. This is one of my favorites. The one one of the candidates, and there's also another candidate. But this one's got like a little path going. You get that barbed wire fence that kind of separate the truck from the house. So you said blue bonnets in the front, some patches here, and yeah. So just gonna keep moving along here. Hey, Genwave, thanks for the follow, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. All right. Getting close to the center here. You're not going to keep the 3-point too crazy. And honestly, I drew it out. I drew that out a bit too far, but I'm gonna roll with it because this is just about the idea here. Placement of the objects, and value is my goal. So I'm just gonna pretend the sun's coming in from this direction for now. Fix my mistakes. And what I mean by that is I'm just going to cross hatch to just kind of hide those lines I didn't want for now. Yes, we can turn the truck around. Truck can be any angle. I've already had the truck in I think 3 or 4 different angles now. Well, you can see here up in this one, or right here, the truck is facing the other way. It's facing away. This one's facing towards us. Didn't do a good towards us shot yet. Experimenting with it. I like the headlights on the truck. Those are fun. Those are fun to draw. Learning this new camera. Here. Yes. Yes. Facing away truck. I got you. I got you. So what's interesting about this Blue Bonnet House is if I was to divide the face of this house in a 5:4 ratio here, which just means a little bit more than half the other way, there's a terrible amount more windows on this side. So you have a little door here, and then there's a little window there. And then right on the halfway mark, so if I was to divide this square up, and a great way of dividing up a square to find the center is you draw 2 diagonal lines from corner to corner. And that will give you the perfect center of that plane, in and out of perspective, which is amazing. Great tool. Use it all the time. So I'm going to center that door. Honestly, this door got a little bit too tall, but that's fine. I'll carry it out in perspective. It's not going to be 100% here. According to these doors, this has to be much higher. But again, not going for tiny details. And then we have the little windows here, 4 little windows, and then there's another door here. What I do like with the horizon being lower is that it gives this cooler perspective on the trees that are in the background, which I like how there's these trees that kind of pop up behind the house. And I'm interpreting these trees. I'm not copying exactly because, as I explained before, it's how I like to study references, because then it allows me to bring my style into things a little bit easier. I like to learn the main shapes, the silhouettes. Silhouettes are very important. There's going to be various things laying around. There's like a gate over here, a little farm gate that could be, I think I threw a cow. I threw a cow laying down in one of them. I was studying cows the other night. Thinking some farm animals could be in it. And yeah, so there's a tree line across this whole drawing here. And so what's fun about pen and ink, well, I think what's so fun about pen and ink, because I find it very challenging in values with cross hatching to achieve certain effects. So I just love that problem, solving that problem. A cool way that I found to, sorry, my hat keeps hitting the camera here. I'm just gonna take my hat off. But one of the ways is instead of drawing an outline around everything, which is like easy to think to do. It's like it's a bad habit I've had for so long. It's not a bad habit. I mean, it's just gonna make it look a certain way. But in order to make these trees look farther away than I'm about to draw, about this height, farther away than these here, is just outlining them with the cross hatching itself. And I just find that if I pretend where I start my line is the dot, the outline of the tree, that's how I'm kind of imagining my cross hatching lines there. And I'm not being very consistent with them right now, but that's the trick, is to be very consistent with them. And got this other tree line going here. I'm going to make this more round of a shape. And maybe a little touch, because if I was to look back over to my reference here, there's a little touch of branches here, but it's you can barely see them. And if it was me, if I really wanted to bring in those branches in the final product, I would just use the color for that. I would use a desaturated version of whatever color I was using out there. But for this particular drawing, I'm going to lay out the values a little bit better here. And because I put my light source going this way, I'm going to go with that accordingly. So the truck is going to be a bit darker on this side. Little lines. You know, I might watercolor this for fun, because, like I said, when I'm working with pen and ink these days, I like to. I've been enjoying coloring them and watercoloring them, and I've been trying to work out my colors at the same time as my sketches, rather than doing each stage one at a time. Just personal preference. The other thing that's very characteristic to this house, I'm noticing, is the roof. It's very clear that it has these kind of tin roof lines happening here. And they're sort of not perfect. They're kind of split in the middle like that. And the other really cool characteristic thing is this other house attachment on the side of it. The roof is completely missing, and I'm not going to be able to display that with this tiny of a drawing idea, but you can just see the rafters left in the building there, so that's really cool. And actually, I made a mistake. This window is actually supposed to be here, closer to the house, so that's good to make note of. The tricky part here is I'm actually drawing it mirrored. My reference right now is for this house is the other way around, but I like trying to do that. As you can see, the one before I drew the other way. So, just trying to really understand the objects. I don't want to have to be using them as a training wheel. By the time I get to my painting, I just want to be able to draw these from memory. I'll probably look back to get a few characteristics of things, because, you know, when it comes to a car, to really make it look like a certain model, you gotta have certain things about it that look like that model. But other than that, yeah. So I'm keeping the sky totally white, and I think I have enough line work here to work out the values and the color. But what I'm going to do is kind of signify a couple more blue bonnets here. I colored these in a bit too much. We'll still see the blue. It's basically just going to be dots. And for the last thing, I just want to add a little stone texture to this house, to the chimney. And basically, I'm not going to draw all little tiny stones in something this small. I'm just going to pick out the areas of stone that pop out and have the most contrast, and then I'm going to silhouette a line around that texture. And then I'll use the color to bring it the rest of the way. So that's what I would consider an idea sketch, laying something out. It gives me enough information to where if this became my favorite one, say, I could take this to a bigger drawing, really work out the perspective, really work out the line work, the shapes, then get the color, really do a color study of it, then move to a painting. And by the time I get to the painting, my confidence will be high enough, and I will understand the objects enough, and I know that at that point I'll be at to where I want it. So, without further ado, let's get some color. I wish I could go live with you. What do you mean exactly? Alright. Let's see here. I like this camera where I can zoom in and out. This is great. Man, cell phones are just crazy advanced these days. So, I really only need one brush because it's such a tiny drawing. As you can see the size of the drawing. Compared to my hand, it's very small. But that's why I like pen and ink. You can fit a lot of information. Talk with you live, yeah. I know what you mean. I could see that being very problematic though too. Because if you had like 100 people in there, it'd be impossible. Okay, keeping my light source in mind, I'm going to start there. I'm going to grab some lemon yellow, I think they call it, or yellow Hansa or whatever. And actually, excuse me really fast, I am going to grab a paper towel. I thought I had one for my brush. Be right back. So, yeah, it's good to have a paper towel nearby. I've learned watercolor. So I'm over here just getting a little puddle of yellow going. Really, really thin, really thin. Hey, it's good. What's up, June? How you doing? Good to see you here. We are just doing idea sketches right now. We're gonna be doing lots of these. Working out the ideas. So, like I said, I'm a beginner to watercolor. And I mean, I understand paint more than watercolor. But I'm liking watercolor a lot, so I'm going out of my way to learn it. Now, I probably should have waited a bit longer for this ink to dry. It is pulling it up a little bit, but that's fine. Now, what I should do is I have my test paper here, which allows me to test colors off to the left to see how they're gonna look. And so, what's cool about watercolor is it always reactivates until you seal it with a product. And so I've been experimenting with doing a whole wash over the whole thing. And what happens is as I add color to this, every bit of the color is going to react to the yellow underneath it. And normally I'd have to plan that and think about that with acrylics because they work differently. But with watercolor, it does it all on its own. But with great power comes great responsibility. It's very hard to control watercolor. Very, very hard. As a beginner. Like compared to acrylic, doesn't run. Just stays on the canvas right where I want it, you know. Anyway. Gonna keep that puddle of yellow there. And let's see. Grab a little little bit of this green. Real light. I'm gonna have to, this is gonna buckle a little bit, this paper. And I can already see how this green's reacting with the yellow. See, that's so fun, that's awesome. I wish acrylic did that. Might be seeing me get into more watercolor, guys. It's subtle, you know, I don't want the color to react to it too much. I'm gonna introduce a little bit more of an intense green now. And hopefully bring those trees forward a little bit here. Now what I have to upgrade is I have to get a little hair dryer for myself to speed up these processes. And you know what, like, I could be working on a tablet right now, but I just get so much joy out of working with traditional medium. Just feels good. I like it more. I don't know what it is. I just like it more. So you see, I have way too much on my brush there. And I made the mistake of not testing my color first. So right now I'm adding just midtones of everything. It's actually helping me here to have a camera shot. So I didn't do enough. Didn't do enough there. There we go, that's what we're looking for. Let's try that. And they say not to fight it, they say just let it do what it wants. So, gonna bring those darker values in on those, but not on the back ones. I want to keep that one flat, kind of atmospherically dulled out tree line. Welcome. Got 8 people watching. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Appreciate it. All right. Now, going to bring in. Gonna stay with the green here. I'm gonna stay with the green. And just trying to really get some pigment out. And oop, hairbrush came off. Hair in my brush came off. And this is what I would call the wash phase of this. Just laying down the undercolor here. And I am gonna grab the tiniest bit. Actually, what's this color here? It's not dark enough. I forgot what color is on my palette. I haven't opened this watercolor kit in a while. I forgot which colors I put where. So. Okay, that's a cool blue. There we go, that's the green I'm looking for. Okay. Let me grab some of that. And by introducing blue here, I'm thinking about shadow. And just while this watercolor isn't 100% dry and a little runny, I just kind of want to toss in, you know, right here, because a little bit of green. You know what, that's not even, I gotta remember that it reacts with the color underneath. See what this color is here. That'll be fine. Not going for perfection. Developing ideas. So now, let's see what this does. I'm going to add a little bit of gouache. And what gouache does, well, gouache is its own thing. I mean, gouache, you can just only use gouache. But I've been using gouache with watercolor. So that when I do want to get a little more coverage, I can. I'm pretty sure this is gouache. Maybe it's not. Either way. Just want to signify some blue bonnet up here. As you can see, I had way too much on my brush. Maybe some there. I don't think I want it to be just completely covered in blue bonnet. Some here and there. A couple out there in the field. A couple right there. And for fun, I'm gonna actually just to see. We're gonna throw some Indian paintbrushes in there. Now I'm taking a little bit of brown because I want to make a little bit of a gray over here. Perfect. Because personally, I like things that aren't too oversaturated when I'm painting, unless they ought to be. So, just bringing in some grays here. Grab some Earl Grey, it's called. Let's go a little darker back here. In fact, going to put some Earl Grey all over this house. Let's see, I'm going to grab a little Indian paintbrush over here. Let's see, it's good. And maybe that's the one. Maybe that's one. And maybe one. Yeah, you know what? I like that. That's a good amount of Indian paintbrushes for me. Maybe one more. Right there. I want there to be more blue bonnets than Indian paintbrushes. I'm gonna grab my green over here again. And mix it with some gray. pretty much all I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go back to the truck here and try to just get a real simple color for it. So looking at this truck, to me, it's gonna be some yellow ochre. And I'm gonna mix this yellow ochre with this red that I already have on the palette. I'm gonna bring some, dry off my brush, grab some, I think it's burnt sienna I have here. Kind of put that off to the side. And then just bring this brown a little bit more towards red. But I'm gonna grab what's this red over here? Like I said, I haven't opened this palette in a while. That's a good red. What is it better with the brown? Yeah, it's not quite. So right here in the sun, it's got like some bright rust color going on. It's almost like it's not because of the sun. It's local color. It's where that's sanded down, kind of. It's like if you were refinishing it, and you sanded down the old rust that was all kicked up. You'd have like, or maybe no. It's actually, it looks like it's where the paint is left over. Actually, that's what it is. The paint is still there, and the rest. That's why it's lighter. That's basically, think of that highlight as the paint. And I'm gonna go over here for a second and do some color testing. That's the red I think I want to work with. Whatever that red's called, I'm just kind of going with my eyes right now. That's more of a purple magenta red, I don't want that. And then this is actually violet, okay. Alright, now I remember what's there. Gotcha. So, I'm going to take this red and I'm going to mix it with the brown that I already have on the palette. Take more of that brown. Let's see, I'm going to bring it over here. It actually is a little bit of that violet red. Just a little bit of that. More of a mixture of red and brown though. Now I'm gonna bring in, I have this color called sepia. I wonder if that'll get what I'm looking for here. Because with watercolors, it's not as straightforward with like getting the grays and stuff. Where you just, you gotta kind of use the browns and the secondaries, mix them with the primaries to get those dulled out colors, and I think that's what I think looks so cool about watercolor. I think this is the color here. Let's see what happens. That's it. Yep, that was it. I'm gonna roll with that. I'm gonna move on. I'm happy with that. Something like that. And that's what I would call an idea. A tiny thumbnail. And to take it a step further, I'm going to take my rust color and color this roof too, because the roof has rust. I want to see how close I can get with this camera. Okay, so that's the limit. That's cool though. I like that. You can really get in on what I'm doing here. This is a really tiny drawing. As you can see, the paintbrush, the tip of the paintbrush is almost as big as the house. Well, that's not rust, that's rafters, so I got that wrong, didn't I? But what I'll do is I'll grab this ultramarine blue and I'll mix it with gray. Test it quick. There we go. That's good enough. Get the idea across. The other day I wasn't even using color. Hey, Auntie Rob, man, we got all three aunties here. Nice. I think this is the first time. All three aunties in one stream. Nice. Alright, cool. Dab that out. I always enjoy how the palette looks after I'm done testing my colors. I don't know. I just think it looks cool. Those are all my color tests. Christina. I can't tell if it's a Volkswagen or an RV parked in front of that hotel. Love that. What's up, guys? Welcome. This is a full family chill right now. This is great. Glad to see y'all here. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the next sketch now. Move this to a spot here. Kind of been developing this little style where I like to draw little squares and kind of get multiple ideas out on one paper, because I found that when I was working out ideas on a whole piece of paper that I won't move it, make it harder for myself, that I was taking too long because it was taking too long to fill the whole paper. And I don't really need to draw a fancy border like this. I just do it to practice my lines, and I don't know. It's just fun. I kind of like the way it looks in the sketchbook. Like when you flip through it. I just kind of like how everything has squares around them. But anyway. I have to stop the camera from shaking, or otherwise it doesn't stop. Alright. So I have multiple angles of this truck. You make it look easy. Man. I wish it felt easy sometimes. I like the scale of the house on the top left. So you're talking about this one. Correct? Versus, do you like on this one kind of like how the house is kind of cut off the back here? It kind of makes it a little like immersive, a little more immersive, closer. I'm using Christina's phone. I don't have a Facebook. Yeah, I know you don't have a Facebook. Stay away though. Don't do it. You've gone this long. Don't join the dark side, Dad. Yes. Okay, good. Noted. I'll note that you like that one. What do you think about this one then, Auntie Lori? Because this is another one that I liked how it came out. This one here. It's a little rougher, but and it's a little bit more fish-eyed, which was an accident. It wouldn't be that fish-eyed. I like how it's coming out with just a 3-point perspective, which means that all vertical lines only vanish down this way, rather than a 4-point perspective, which means they vanish this way and they also vanish that way. I don't know if that made sense. Doesn't have to. Anyway, I like the placement of this building too, because I also threw in a little barn here, kind of like you had in one of my references that you sent me. So, anyway, that was one of the other ones I liked. I don't care about that. I like that the focus is the house. Okay, cool. I'm glad you don't mind a little bit of warp in it, because it's fun. I think it makes it look like you're kind of in the picture rather than like the difference I see. The best way I can describe it is like between a telescopic lens and a wide-angle lens, and basically it's kind of like the difference between looking through a paper towel tube and having peripheral vision in the drawing as well. I think I'm liking though that everything's a little bit like when everything's a little bit more crunched together, kind of looks like comfy, you know? Because I was experimenting with kind of the pictures you sent me where everything is really spread out and far away, and I feel like it ended up becoming more about the land than it was about the house and the truck when everything was that spread out. So I'm crunching things a little bit closer together than the pictures you have, and I think I'm liking that result. So I'm going to bring up another picture of a truck here on the side. You guys can't see it, it's off screen, but I'm going to, I really want to get this truck in my brain here. And I know Auntie Laura said she wanted to face in the other way, so I'm going to get this picture. Now I'm going to make this one more of a more direct study here, just for fun. So the horizon, and this one's here, roughly there. The land goes a little above the horizon. Then we just literally have this post here, and I'm going to draw it in just because. Just because I want to get this stuff in my brain. Now these barbed wire fences, they really don't care about how neat they are, do they, down there? They're just kind of like that. Except this particular, oh. Something happened to my camera. Auntie, you can't call me, Auntie Laura. I'm using my phone for the camera, so can't do that. Let me see if I can fix it midstream here. 1 second, guys. There we go. Auntie Lori calling me midstream. Okay, so 1 second. Yeah, I found that I can turn my phone into a webcam, and it has much better quality than anything else I have right now. And high quality webcams are very expensive, hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So I'll use my $1,500 phone that has a 4K camera in it, right? Get these nice zoomed in shots. Anyway, moving on here. Auntie Lori. It's alright, you didn't know, it's okay. I figured that would happen too. I knew it was a risk that if I would use this, that someone would call me in the middle of a stream, but at least we know now, we've tested that if someone does call me, I can get it back. Anyway, I'm gonna move on with this fence while we're at it here. So, because this is about the truck. This drawing I'm doing is about studying the truck, not about placement. This particular reference. She already probably knows which picture I'm drawing, because she sent them to me. So I'm gonna put little X's here, just to signify the barbed wire, make it look painful. And on this wire down here actually is where we start having some consistency. There's these two kind of little zip tie things, and then these come down like this. These kind of bent wires, and luckily for me they're all bent, so my lines actually have to be shitty for it to look right. Okay. It's also very hard to get nice smooth flowing lines in tiny drawings. It's very challenging. Oh, I got you. So I almost understood what you meant. So you like the top picture, but you like the truck facing forward. I got it now. I thought you meant you liked the top picture because the truck was facing away. I still want to study the truck this way anyway, for my own personal growth then. How's that? So, just to show you a little trick here for how I'm thinking, for all you artists, aspiring artists in the crowd tonight. And, you know, this is how I do things. I learned from the internet, and I always have, and teaching myself. So I don't claim that this is like academic correctness here, or actual knowledge they teach in the books. However, it's good to place your vanishing points outside of the drawing, because it creates a more realistic feel. And all I mean by that is when you learn perspective for the first time, they tell you to draw a line, put a dot, and you vanish all the stuff out. But they may not tell you in the first lesson is to put vanishing points way out here. And so when you bring those guidelines in to the back of the truck, say, where it's going to sit right here, it's less drastic, less distorted. I like the truck. How about a long road driving up to the house? The house is in the background off to the left, and the truck is broken down. As if like the truck was running, like it's more new. Because this is like one of those trucks that have been rotting for like 70 years in a farm field. So, and in this particular reference, there's like a bush that's blocking the corner of the truck, but I'm not going to draw that because I'm going to attempt to learn the form of the truck here. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth. So being mindful of all the vanishing points, we're going to get the door of the truck here, and I'm going to do anything that's not overlapping. Just like that. Always make sure the lines are converging. That's one thing I realize I gotta think in my head is, you know, it's easy to get caught up on all these vanishing points, and you just gotta think the lines gotta converge. They just gotta converge, going away from you. Don't listen to your dad. No, very old and rusted. I like the broken down look. Gotcha. I gotta remember it's not Christina talking. Okay, so it's cool now that I'm getting a closer picture of this truck. Is the back wheel well as I was grotesquely under exaggerating. It's very big. It's like big old wheel well. It's even bigger than that. I'd say it goes even about to that. They got this little bar that comes down. And then behind it, there's another kind of bumper that wraps like that. It almost looks exactly what you see around bumper cars. Just like that. And I'm left to interpret what's behind the bush. I'm just going to assume it's exactly mirrored. And right before this bar, there's a little tapered edge that comes up to kind of like a railing here. Now this is where my second vanishing point comes in. And because my horizons, we're looking down. When the horizon's above the top half of the page, it means you're looking down on your subject. When the horizon's below the half of the page, it means you're looking up at the subject. The scene I'm thinking about is the house and the land they used in the moving when Superman was coming. The scene I'm thinking about is the house and land they used in the moving when Superman was coming home. Okay, I'll stop texting now. I don't know what you're particularly talking about, what scene. And you don't have to stop texting, that's what chat's for. Everyone's welcome to comment as much as they want. No one needs to stop commenting there. I mean, maybe Auntie Laura wants you to stop influencing my ideas away from her ideas, I don't know, but who knows, maybe you'll come up with something she likes. So again, I'm imagining my vanishing point way off the side of this square as far as possible. And so I'm thinking of a ratio here. And if I was to say because the truck's turned in perspective right now, the truck bed is roughly about exactly half of the entire truck. So if I was to place the truck in a box and I cut the box in half, the truck bed takes up the other half and the cab takes up the front half of the cube. But because it's in perspective, the front half is going to be slightly smaller. So I'm going to make a few dots here. It's a little trick I do in pen and ink before committing to a line. I make a few reference dots, kind of where I want it to. What's cool here is this goes right into the grass. So before I move on, you can actually see a little bit of the rotor here, the brake rotor, popping out of the grass, which is cool. Definitely gonna remember to include that. You can actually see the shocks too. The what do you call them? What do they called, Dad? Help me out here. They're like the curved shocks that you see in the back of trucks. Anyway, I don't need to be that detailed. Then we have this bar coming down here, and then another bar right at the end, and then we're gonna connect this railing. There's another one here, and then just gotta converge it there and make sure that's converging. We have the back of our truck. There's a little footstep, but it's kind of buried in the grass, so I'm gonna kind of leave it obscured. I'm gonna make some dots for the cabin here. It's tapered, but it's still vanishing. And that was a bit too round. It's very round, bubbly looking truck. It's kind of like that. I just have to be careful to make sure this half doesn't go out longer than the back half, and it should look right. We got the door line here, which just goes shy of the top, and we can see the window line coming down. Now I'm going to exaggerate the foreshortening. Again, I'm interpreting because I don't want to make it exact here. And then vanishing here within a cube, but it's round, comes down. And then we have this really weird, it like comes up at an angle, goes out, curves. And I didn't really do that right. It should have came up more like that. So we'll make that into grass. And then we have this wheel well here. And this comes out like that. Overlaps pretty bad. There you go. Oh, it's a 1949 Chevy 3100 half-ton pickup. Well, that really helps. That'll help me look up a lot more pictures of it. Sweet. So, gonna add in some grass detail here. Now, I'm kind of thinking before I start filling in too much. Where do I want my darks? Where do I want my lights? And again, sticking with 3 colors. Light, mid, dark. And 3 to 4. I never go 5 with my thumbnails. And for fun, I'm just gonna toss in these trees, the silhouettes of them here. And what I've really been trying to improve on are my silhouettes. And what I mean by silhouette is really establishing the general shape of an object. Because what it does is it really makes our brain pick up on it much better. And I found that when I was a beginner, I would be too indecisive about all my shapes, and I would be too sketchy. And I'd always be drawing everything like this, and I'd be going like this, and like, okay, I want to draw this mushroom, and I'm being all sketchy and like indecisive, about this mushroom, and it's fine to gesture and be scribbly like this, and kind of eventually find the mushroom. But I realize it's better to kind of just slow down a little bit, think about the mushroom. Like, what kind of mushroom is it? Like, okay, well, it's a tall one, you know, so it's like gonna be long and skinny, and just be a little bit more thoughtful of my lines and how they flow and like where they go and about the negative space. Maybe you know maybe it's a small mushroom, so there's big pieces of grass here. You know, we have like there's a little ant or something, and you know, this is my picture plane. I'm thinking about all these things. This is my picture plane, and I want the horizon to be really low. There's my horizon. That means I'm looking up at the mushroom. So that means the mushroom's gonna curve like this. You're gonna be able to see underneath it, and I mean, I think before getting to that point, and even then I was a bit sketchy about these lines. You know, I could have been better with the shape. But anyway, that's all I mean about silhouettes, is like really establishing strong shapes, and it's a never-ending life journey that I'm on right now. And so for this tree, I'm trying to like connect the dots of the outer leaves pretty much like that, and to not separate too much unless it's very far in the background. And these shapes can be anything. And again, I'm making them up mostly. I'm looking for general placement, and then I'm making up the rest. There's a little telephone pole here. Throw it in. We got the wires vanishing off behind the trees that way. A little bush here. That's fine. Throw some value lines on the truck for fun. Something like that. Anyway, next drawing. Not gonna bother coloring that one. And so, these squares I'm drawing in, I'm generally making them the ratio that the actual painting is gonna be in, which is a 24 by 36. So it's generally about this rectangle, is a 24 by 36. This is what I was trying to describe before. Oh, cool. Yeah. I can't click the link either right now. Actually, I can. 1 second. Let's see here. It's because I think you sent a file. You didn't send a link. You pasted a file. It's not actually a URL. That's the problem. Anyway, I'm gonna do another layout drawing here. I want to try another one. We'll make sure the truck's facing this time. And I want to try one that has... Where'd my email go? I accidentally closed my email. That's okay. Only takes a second. I like the truck as is anyway. Well, you clearly differentiated between it facing forward and backward, so we'll go with the forward look. I like the headlights too. I think I think out of all the characteristics of the truck, that the headlights are the most recognizable. Ooh, I like, you know what? I like this little picture you sent me. So I'm going to study this picture next. Try to train the brain here and not draw guidelines this time. So this is a very zoomed in picture, which means telephoto lens, telescopic. Horizon line's just below half, which is a very eye level view. Just kind of looks like, it gives the impression that you're just standing there in the grass as a human. And I'm just signifying that with 3 little dots that I just put there. And then I'm going to also signify the bottom corner of the house here. And then also, it's a very far vanishing point off the picture plane. This is a very close telescopic view. But I find it so fun having control over the vanishing points, because you can create any camera angle and any feel that you want. I am going to add 3-point into this slightly though. Very slightly. And here's another dot for let's see here. So get the horizon, the trees will come up to about here. Splitting this in half. Again, ratios. I'm going to do little dots for the trees. Tree line. And I'm going to strike my first line on the left side of the house. Right here. Then I'm going to strike my second line here. Again, leaning a little bit to the right to capture that 3-point perspective. And placing it there. Has to converge slightly. There's no line, but there is like this stone. It's like all broken up on the side, and then it's completely broken up here, and it's just dark pretty much underneath this roof. Which again, I'm going to divide the square in half in my mind with an X and kind of see that the center of the square is here. So I actually went a little too far with that peak. The center of the square is right about there, so I want it to stop about there. It's really where it should be in perspective correctly, mathematically. And I'm going to kind of improvise this line. Now I'm looking at my horizon dots here, and they're vanishing way out, way off the picture plane. And there's like a curved piece of metal goes up, kind of like that. Looks like a broken piece of metal. I'm going to get my other line here first. And actually it kind of goes up, and then there's like an overlap because it's folded again. It's kind of like it's flat there, and then this crease starts. Hits there. Goes in again. Another crease. And then we have the actual roof that isn't damaged yet. Being careful to keep in mind this slight converging feeling, and I'll make the roof a little higher because I messed up. And that'll be fine. Show a little curve on the tin roof. And there's actually another flap here, which I like. I'm building ideas for how a tin roof can be broken in my brain right now. We just texted you the picture of the car. Okay. And I'm sorry, I realized I wasn't zoomed in here. I didn't realize I was drawing so tiny, my bad. Came loose. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to finish a little bit of this grass line here. We have a barrel all these lines. And this barrel is actually above half, right about there. And then there's a bush, which I'm going to silhouette. Now you know what that means when I say that. I don't have to explain it again. Another silhouette. And then a door. And I'm going to squeeze this bush over to the right a little bit more, because the door needed to be a little bit more to the right. Be careful not to draw straight lines. I realize that when you cover edges with things, everything just looks better. It looks more realistic. What I mean by that is how there's a bush cover in this corner, this grass cover in this corner, grass cover in this corner. I don't have anything covering this corner. But if you were looking at a normal house, like, there's a lot of things on a house. When you really look at it, all these little bolts and brackets and nuts and screws and nails, and like, if I was to zoom into this soffit here, there would probably be, if this is a house, of course, this is a broken down shed. And, you know, and right here I'm leaving out detail, these boards. But if this was a soffit, you know, you'd see the gutter coming down on the side like that. I'll add a gutter for fun, because it's just a practice drawing. There's just so many little things that can be added onto a house. It's absurd. That's why these reference studies help me so much. So when I am drawing freehand later, I remember all these little details, and I don't think anyone truly memorizes something from nothing, right? So here's the barrel. It's a little bit rounded. It's not perfect, so I'm gonna try to capture that. Then it's like got that little thing in the middle, and it's a little bit closer than the corner of the house. So I'm gonna let it drop slightly below, and then have that bottom line covered with grass. Have that go down. We can see that edge, but then I'm gonna completely black out the entrance. So here's a fancy term: ambient occlusion. Ambient occlusion is when, well, what that term means is where no light is reaching in the drawing. The absolute blacks, or the least light, I should say, is reaching in the drawing. Because you can change, it's all relative, right? You can make the darkest value in your drawing actually not that dark, and then the rest will make sense as long as it's lighter. That's just kind of how it works. But when it comes to black and white on paper and pen and ink, the two easy things to get is the line work and the ambient occlusion, because usually they're just these black silhouettes, these really dark, tiny black shapes that happen in the corners of things. And for example, like, I'll add some ambient occlusion to these stones here on the side. So like we have this stone detail here, which I'm kind of roughly sketching. I'm not drawing in every stone, because that'll look worse than just getting the general shapes and ideas. And I'll just go ahead and I'll finish the stones on the front of the house, just to make the point. And let's say these are our stones here. And normally in these stone builds, like, and I find myself having to make all these observations in order to memorize things. And when I make these observations and I talk about them, it helps me memorize things. In these builds, you gotta think, like, how is it built? Like, how are these masons building this house? There's cornerstones, and so there's these cornerstones that you can see that are stacked here. So that, you know, that's, if I was to add every stone or bring out the detail of the stone more, it would be in the cornerstones, because to me that makes more sense. But anyway, because this house is so tiny, the ambient occlusion, there's a couple stones here, so like right on the stone line, there's like a hole. And I'll go really close here so you can see what I'm doing. There's like a little square hole, and these rocks that are just kind of jutting out here and there, and it's where no light's getting in at all. There's another one here. And when there's properly placed ambient occlusion, things look very realistic. Like, I didn't necessarily put a lot of love into these rafters here, if it took a second. Actually made it look like there was a board, which I'm failing out a little bit, but you can see, you know, it just makes things pop. This bush is very dark, like right on the bottom of it, you know, where the barrel, where the barrel disappears into the grass. There'll be little spots of ambient occlusion like that. Just little spots. Maybe even where the branches really heavily overlap on the bush. Little tiny ambient occlusion spots like that. And then the barrel isn't as bright as the sky. None of this is as bright as the sky. There's like 3 rusted panels like this. You can value those in. I'm gonna zoom back out here. My clipboard isn't cooperating with me. Let's see here. Alright. That's good. That's fine. Alright. Now, I'm going to just kind of study some of the things I see. Right behind this barrel, about the same height of it, there's a fence going to a farm. Kind of opening here. Just rails, really. I'm not going to think too much about. Because they're far back and they're overlapping and can't really tell much about them. I got some like... Are these pictures from Texas? Because I'm starting to realize that Texas has a very unique looking vegetation style on the ground. There's all these like tiny little shrubs, and like in this particular picture there's all these little white flowers that are kind of placed about in bunches like this. And just kind of like these different colors of grass, and I'm just going to signify them by just kind of drawing these rough lines. And within these lines I would color the different shades of grass. And that's what I mean by you can silhouette anything. So just below the roof was the true horizon, I remember. And off this horizon we actually have visible tree trunks coming up. And I'm not going to outline those too heavily. Value those in with watercolor. I'll just remember they're there. Yes, cool. And see if I can silhouette these. This tree line. Actually, before I get over here, above this fence, we can still see the land. It's kind of like that. Just gonna take my time here. And I'm just thinking kind of like dots. Wherever that line is starting is where I wanted to connect the dot of the tree line. Something like that. And then maybe by cross hatching this way I'll bring in another bush here. It's kind of sitting in the front. Can't see its trunk. It almost comes right down to the ground here. And same thing over here. This kind of and really being conscious of is my edges here. Where do the lines stop? And direction of line, because direction of line can show that it's something else. See, if I go opposite here, it almost looks like the little ground level shrubbery back there now, because it's going opposite. There's all these little tricks in hatching. I love hatching and all the different textures you can get with it. It's really fun. Just only use lines and do a full value drawing. There's these unique little bushes that I like. They have like fairy branch, like stalks, whatever you want to call them, behind this house. So I'll study those quick. And what else? We got this like, there's like a tiny object out in the field. It's like a, what is it, like a composter, maybe another rotting vehicle. It looks way off in the distance. That's about enough detail. That's all we need. Moving on to the watercolor now. Should provide enough information. Now this is not the Blue Bonnet House, obviously, but this is just a shed, getting more ideas for broken down buildings around the Blue Bonnet House. Grabbing my brush here. It's in Marble Falls, Texas. Okay, cool, yeah, so these are from Texas. Yeah, I was noticing some cactuses on the ground here and there. The car was in a different field on the way to Marble Falls. Joachim said he can incorporate it into the painting. Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. Where's my paper towel? I'm gonna grab this aside. Fresh color test. And just going right with the rust. And the rest is gray. Let's see, I'm gonna bring a little brown into this gray here. These bricks are like grayish red. I'll make that the wash. Very light. Let's see. Go with a dull, more dull overcast for fun. For practicing watercolor reasons, because I find it hard to be dull with watercolors. They're very vibrant. So I want to practice my desaturated color mixing more. So this is essentially a very light blue-gray I'm taking, and it's gonna make everything feel very cool themed. Cool off the side of this. And I know grass isn't blue, but hear me out. When I put the green, it's gonna react. And I Could be color mapping this better, but my focus isn't as much as the color right now as the placement. I'm just getting color ideas, very rough color ideas. Later on, there's going to be color studies. I want to do 1 or 2 color studies when I really establish my line drawing to establish the mood of the painting. So I'm gonna grab some blue, grab some green. Very little bit of gray into that. Ooh, that was way too much. Alright, well, whatever. I'll ruin that and just add more green. I'll just take green and mix the color I just made with it. That should do the trick. Isn't necessarily the right green, actually. Let's take some of this green. And mix in some of this blue. It's still a bit saturated. And instead of taking gray, because it's really powerful, I'm going to add brown. And if my calculations are correct, the brown should collide with the blues and the green and bring it a little bit towards the gray side of things. And I'm going to add a little puddle of water over here to the side so that I can kind of dilute it a little bit. So what I'm learning with watercolor is that clear water takes the same function as white would when you're painting with acrylic. So it's like, if you're painting with acrylic and you want to lighten your colors, you use white. If you're playing with watercolor and you want to lighten your colors in the same way and also desaturate them, clear water. Same thing. Because the paper now with watercolor is essentially your white because you're working semi-transparent. So I'm grabbing a dash of blue. I want to bring out the blue in the green a little bit more and just kind of accent down here, like bringing these tree trunks. Well, actually, I'll even go a bit darker for the tree trunks. There we go. That's about how dark they are in the actual drawing. A little bit more of that blue-green because these trees are actually closer. Gonna get even more blue. And blue is the shadow. Now this ink is great that I'm using. It's called platinum carbon ink. And the reason why it's so fancy and has to be platinum carbon ink is because it's waterproof. So after you draw with the pen, and let it dry for a second, the water won't run the ink off the paper. I can tell you the shorter part of the house was the original structure, the taller part was added on. Oh, cool. Fun fact. You're right, it is stone and not brick. It is cut limestone, but it lies like brick. All these details are very helpful for drawing it. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, cooking dinner, but keeping you on. Cool. I've been going for about 2 hours. Well, that went by fast. I'm going to have to take a little bathroom break here after this drawing here in a second. I'll be right back, though, and we'll do a few more. Let's see. So the barrel's blue, but it's like a light cerulean blue. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Cerulean, something like that. So I'm just gonna let it have its nice local color here. Not even going to. Oops. Get a little more pigment there. I didn't get enough pigment. There we go. There we go. Let's see. I'm going to take some clear water and blend this blue line a little bit. And this is what I love about watercolor so much, is that if you ran out of time and you didn't blend it, no worries. Come back with a little bit of water and boom, reactivated. Just blowing on it, like let it set a little better. Now try to get some super saturated green going here. Man, tell you, I'm still learning these watercolors. Like I said, they're a bit finicky, but they're awesome. See, this is where the gouache would come in. There we go. I just had to be a little more patient with it there. Let's see. The grass over here is a little bit darker front. Let's make that the grass that's darker. It'll be the same color as that plant. And the dark grass kind of makes its way over here. And then stops. And then the grass doesn't have dark patches again until the foreground. And here's where I will whip out the gouache. Let's try to make a use of this gouache. Such a weird word. Let's see. Looking for white because the flowers in this painting are white. There we go. So that's the gouache. Oh. That's gouache. Well, it's one form of it. And for for those of you that didn't hear it earlier, I used the gouache to increase the opacity of the watercolor, which just basically means it's going to cover over darks. Lights covering over darks does not happen in watercolor. I am going to just zoom out here so that it doesn't look like I'm not doing anything for a second. I'm going to slide this away. I have to kind of clean out this well right here a little bit. And I'm going to grab a paper towel. I'll be right back. I saw a really cool art hack the other day. I can't call you when I take a break while the stream is still going, because then it will. I have to unhook my phone from the thing. But I'm not going to be streaming too much longer. I'm probably only going to go another hour or so. Probably another hour at the most. And then I'll give you a ring after that. But I saw a cool art hack recently on YouTube, and basically they held a sponge. So basically it was like they were talking about how you can not worry about washing your brush when you're dipping into your other pans and contaminating colors, because you can just kind of like lean it like this, hold like an absorbent cloth on top of the color, and you just spray like this, and it washes the color off the top. And with the sponge, which I don't have now, it just pours into the sponge like that, and basically just falls off like Rain-X on a windshield. But this is old gouache in this here, so I'm just being more aggressive and wiping it out completely. Just gonna replace it with brand new batch. What's up? Is everything okay? Why do you need me to call you? You got painting ideas? I'll call you after the stream is done. Gonna add a little bit more water again. This is the other thing I love about watercolor, is it's so easy to clean. Almost there. That's good enough, actually. I'm just gonna dab that out. I'm gonna water up in there an accident. That gray is powerful. Gotta be careful with that Earl Grey. Hey, Auntie June, welcome back. Good to see you here. We'll be going for another hour. I can write here. You can call me later. I wanted to tell you what I envisioned, but of course you are the artist. Yeah, I mean it's your painting, so like I want to hear your input always. But I'll just call you after. I mean, there's plenty of flexibility still. I'm on the development stage. I'm just doing thumbnails, so there's nothing locked in about anything. That's why I do 30 to 50 thumbnails before I do a big project like this. Get a really clear idea of it. So I'm just gonna take my gouache here and add it to the pan. There we go. And while it's convenient for me, while it's still wet, because what's cool about gouache is it's like pretty much watercolor. You could reactivate it just like watercolor, so I don't have to worry about this drying. that's what's nice about this palette. It has a rubber seal, so it keeps all the paints nice and dry, and it's good for traveling around and stuff. Okay, I'm gonna put that back over here on the other camera. And yeah, I'm actually gonna raise my chair up a little bit. Okay. Bring this back. Zoom it in. There we go. And basically the last touch I'm doing is just these little white flowers. I'm gonna as dry as a brush as I can. This is basically painting like acrylic at this point. I'm just gonna tap. I'll zoom in for your satisfaction. When I use these fine brush tips, I like to drag it across the paint in the palette. It tends to create this little bead on the tip. I find when I try to get the perfect amount of paint on it, I end up wiping it off too much. And painting with the fine tip brush is a finicky thing in itself. The bristles don't stay good for long. Like the very, very couple hairs at the tip that you really need to stay good to get a line. They don't stay. I'm sorry, I forgot to move it over when I did those other ones. I should probably just stay completely zoomed out here. A little more, there we go. Actually, no, I can just... Here, you know what I'll do? I'm gonna bend up my camera angle a little bit here. This isn't a permanent camera angle. I've been trying to find the best spot to put it all day. Because I realized that it's because it's fixed, I can't always put it on the same spot in the sketchbook. So I have to have it in a spot where I can maneuver my sketchbook around. There we go, that's better. I'm about to read your comment, Auntie. Sorry, 1 second here. Let's see. Okay, what I vision was this looming house, not in a horror movie way. In the back left, and then truck in the front right. The details would be the field of scattered blue bonnets in between. In the front of a smattering of indie paintbrushes. Cool. Noted. Yeah. I'll go ahead and screenshot my computer right now so I can remember that later. Saved. Anyway. The last detail I'm going to bring into this cabin that's missing here. Or not really a cabin, it's kind of like a shed that would be in your yard. But it's basically... gets red here on the bottom, or brown, like clay red, like that. Dab it off, and a couple accents of it over here too. It's very subtle. And then that doorway would would definitely not be as bright as this guy. And then this is kind of blacked out up here because it's all bricks missing and stuff. House left center. Yeah, so kind of like the one that you like. Well, except if it was mirrored. So like if like this house is on the left, same way, left center, and then obviously the truck would be facing. Alright, well on that thumbnail sketch, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and I will be right back. Give myself a little leg stretch. We're going for about 2 hours and 15 minutes. I appreciate y'all hanging out for the duration. I know some of you have left now, but I appreciate it, let's see, real quick here before I mute myself. This was supposed to actually be a different video today, so I'm gonna see if I can change that now. Let's see. Let's see. There we go. Alright. Yeah, no problem. No problem. Those are easy things to change in this part of the process. Don't want to be thinking about those things when the painting starts. That's for sure. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna toss on this random video I made for fun. Silly random video. I'm gonna go to the bathroom, take about a 5-minute break. I'll be back. Hope to see you here. If I don't, no worries. Thank you for hanging out. See you soon. Sorry. Just stop the camera. I'm taking a break, dude. Stupid. Sorry. Just stop the camera. I'm taking a break, dude. Stupid. Alright, now that you guys have survived intermission and watched my shenanigans, we're gonna get back to a few more drawings here. Take a second to review what I've already done here. I'm gonna go all the way back to the first couple ones too. Don't like that one already. That was a truck study. Profile view. I threw another car in there for fun. I was kind of thinking of like a junkyard kind of a scene with kind of a bunch of broken down cars everywhere. Here's another one. Truck kind of going off. Because you could see some of that fisheye happening there. Again, this is one of the ones I personally liked. I like the little bit of the barbed wire fence showing in here. I just kind of made it look like you were looking over the fence, and just kind of like where the. This is kind of almost what you're describing, Auntie, through your description. By chance. This is the closest to your description, I'd say. Minus the... Okay, well, I was thinking actually that you said... So the big looming house, you meant just the Blue Bonnet House. But in this thumbnail sketch, you got the looming house on the left and also another broken down shed. And the truck on the front right. This is the closest to your description. This one was another one I didn't show. But my idea of it was like kind of making it more heavily foliated, like as if the house was kind of set in the woods a little bit more. I always like how the sun kind of shines through the little spaces in the trees in this kind of scenes. And the car and the tree and the car and the house on the same side of the page. And then... this one, which is another one I really like. Is the actual commission piece going to be ink and watercolor? I love how this combination looks. No, it's actually going to be acrylic paint, but. Yeah, it's going to be acrylic paint because that's the size canvas that I have. The biggest... I don't even have watercolor that size right now. I have a drawing pad. Yeah, no, I don't have a 24 by 36 watercolor paper. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with acrylic because I'm more confident in that medium when it comes to something that big. This one I like too. These two I think are first and second place so far. This was just the truck study from behind. And then another little study of the kind of broken down shed. Unless that was the Blue Bonnet House before it was added onto it, or the other piece of the house was added onto it. Okay, so get myself another square here. I do plan on doing big watercolors eventually, once I get more comfortable with it though. I think I gotta have the right paper for that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know, I guess I could do it on What is it? What is the paper? This is the paper here. But I have like this, but like a giant one. Let's see, what is it? It just says drawing. I feel like it's too thin. I mean, what is it compared to this? This stuff seems a little bit more hardy. This was a mixed medium. This one was called. Seems thicker, the mixed medium, than the drawing paper. Yeah, I wouldn't do watercolor on this. Sweet, yeah, sure. I mean, I personally, it's quickly becoming my favorite, one of my top three. So it's like, I love digital because it's awesome. Like, pen and ink is number one, but like the new thing, like adding the watercolor with it, I like really love how it looks, and it's a pleasure to do paintings like that. The acrylic's a process. It's something about watercolor that's very forgiving. Okay, so for this one, well, here, look, I'll show you. It's right here. How big is it? It's huge. 18 by 24. So it's one size down from the size you are paying for the painting. You know what I ought to do is, before I spend more money, because I personally don't like watercolor paper. I don't like what they call watercolor paper as much. I like actually doing watercolor on the mixed media paper more. It's really rough, and when it comes to drawing with pen, on a fountain pen, it's so much nicer on smooth paper. So if that paper ends up working, I'd rather do that. And then I would seal it. And then the only thing after that is the challenge of kind of mounting it onto something, like gluing it down, but you have to be careful with the glue, because then if you put too much glue on the back, it soaks through and you can see it, and so that's probably the benefit of using thick paper, isn't it? It's the mounting, because often with finished fine art watercolor pieces, they're like glued to a board or encased in glass, in a glass kind of frame. So let's see, I'm on Google Images here to the right, looking at different angles of blue bonnets, and I just want to draw a close-up of one. I just want to learn that flower, in case I want to use it some other time. Here's a good picture. So this has no overlap. I'm going to cut it off, crop it about here. I'll put a dot for that branch and a dot for that branch. Let's see, you gotta take a closer look here. Oh, that's cool. Strange little looking flowers. So this one, this picture I'm looking at, it's got a weird angle of the buds in the middle. I can't tell exactly what the object is exactly. I'll get a 3/4 view of it. So this is a tilted in space flower. I'm not gonna. It would not be vanishing. A little detail here. I'll let the watercolor do the rest. Okay, so these like little nubs that happen on some of the tops of the branches. Here's where it's gonna get a little more confusing, and I'm gonna kind of start improvising a little bit. But before I do that, I want to get a grip on a couple more angles of this flower before I try to improvise it. Let me draw this one here. So there's one right above this one, comes up. And there's a bunch of split off branches happening here. But this branch, it's like the bud is so weird with it. The little pink bud. Is that there? There's like a face to him. Wasn't supposed to curve more like that. Something like that. And then this one just looks like an orange slice right below it, right behind it. And this one's strange. So maybe this must be the front view, because this looks like what I haven't seen before. There's like that, and then these kind of something like looking like that is what I'm seeing. And then there's like a pillow. It's like a pillow in the middle like this. And then this has a line. And so does this one kind of. It's kind of what I'm seeing. Okay, I'm going to copy a few more, and then so this has the line there, so that must be, I'm trying to learn the form of this thing. It's a very strange flower close up. They just look like little bunches far away. But so some of them have pink buds and some of them don't. I'm seeing here. So in the center here, where like the little pillow is, some are pink, some are white. Maybe that must be the age that they are. That's my guess. Each flower has a certain lifespan. While I'm being indecisive, I'm just gonna toss in some of the leaves. To be honest, they kind of look like pot leaves. If I showed you a marijuana leaf, I think you'd agree. It's very close. Can't see that other leaf. So I like how this leaf is overlapping right behind this flower. So I'm gonna just draw out. And around. This is so close up. I'll go ahead and take liberty on adding some more details here. Now I want to be careful of the center line of this leaf. I don't want to put it in the center because they're kind of cupped. They're like you could pour water onto the top of them and they would hold it. That's what I mean. So this one just curves down like this. So that gives me more information looking at it from the side. So this one's like kind of turned and you can only see the edge of it. You can barely see the middle line. It's like just there. And then the veins of these leaves kind of go like that. This is going to help me later when I'm drawing the final piece. This is the process. I figured I'd show the process from the very start. I usually just show like the final painting. Blue Bonnet fields bloom for about 6 weeks a year. Oh wow, that's cool. That's very short. It's very short. So they come and make a big statement and head out. That's cool. I think it's cool when plants do that. I find plants very fascinating. I think a lot of people find plants boring because they're so still and they're kind of mysterious. We don't really know much about them. These still, but they're just incredible things. They do so many incredible things that we take for granted every day. Like the obvious one, breathing. Imagine that. Wouldn't be able to breathe without them. I was watching this documentary the other day about trees and how they all have a relationship with a fungus underneath the soil. And the fungus that it's in the relationship with is essentially a mushroom. And it connects to other trees in a network, and they talk to each other and warn each other of disease and if there's nutrients nearby or a water source. And it was way too deep to get into it and remember all of it, but it was mind-blowing. Makes me look at the woods differently. Makes everything seem much more alive, even though it obviously is alive. But you know what I mean? More what's the word? Sentient. than I would traditionally think of a plant, the way they were talking about it. It's fascinating stuff. Look into it if you've never heard of it. The relationships between plants and their coexisting underground mushrooms. And you don't want to think of the mushrooms that are like the caps. They're more like, it's more like the mushrooms you see when you like pull up a rotting log on the ground and you see that white spiderwebby stuff. That's actually mushroom material. The last stage of a mushroom is when you see it pop out of the ground. That's the final moments of its life, really. Reminds me of a lightning bolt. That's kind of how lightning bolts happen too. They before you see the actual bolt, a lot happens. If you want to see something really cool, look up a lightning bolt video on a high-speed camera. That stuff looks crazy. I've been wanting to do a painting like that too, like a tornado ripping through a field with a giant lightning bolt crashing from cloud to ground. I think that would be a really fun painting to try. So this is another example where it doesn't have the pink center. Obviously you can't tell because I'm drawing in black and white right now, but wild mushrooms. Oh man, yeah. Those don't grow around here like up there. At least those kind anyway. So here's where the branches are starting to disappear. We do have one coming out this way. Let's get the obvious ones. There's another one shooting out here. The top is very interesting. Taking my time with these details here helps me remember them later. Also, this picture I'm using, I probably could have picked a better one, but it's hard to see. I have to squint. It's like the resolution isn't good. So like edges are fading into other edges. But this is another interesting angle of it that is showing this sort of like bottom petal. And the pillow thing is from a direct profile view, and it looks like this now. Kind of wraps around like that. And then this overlaps, and that bottom part of the flower comes out like this. And there's the crease. And you can see a little bit of the other flower. Okay, I'm starting to understand the anatomy of it. I still don't feel confident enough to stop looking. I'm gonna do one more, and then I'm gonna try one on my own. See if I can remember a blue bonnet flower. Here's another good front-facing one that I can try. It shows the stalk again, and then there's this flower that goes like this. It's kind of like a slight three-quarter actually, slightly turned. A split, and then the pillow. I just gotta remember the pillow. It looks like a pillow to me. I mean, if I took that shape out, I could make it a pillow if I wanted to. And then another branch this way. Okay, so I'm not looking right now. I'm trying to memorize it. And and the bud is the last thing I want to study because the bud on top looks really cool. So I'm gonna stop the flowers just because I'm running out of space in my frame. I just want to get a bud study here. So I'm gonna finish a couple flowers on the left. Profile view. Need to turn it a little more. It's like they're like a bean. It's like a bean that's like folded. Is like what the flower is. Yeah, I understand in the painting. Yeah, I know I don't have to be that precise. I'm doing a blue bonnet close up here just because I want to add it into my library of foliage for when I'm improvising a drawing. I'm trying to build my library of different things. It's very difficult. I think that's been the longest quest in art for me, is memorizing random things and what they look like inside and out. It's probably a never-ending one. So this bud is very intricate. It's cool though. I think it's debatably, speaking shapes-wise, one of the coolest parts of the flower. It's crazy when you really start zooming into plants, all the little parts they have, and incredibly intricate little things. All plants are. Little hairs on them, and it's like a pine cone kind of. It's very similar to a pine cone, except not. They concave in the sides on the rather than out. More like a raindrop, or no, it's like an artichoke. That's what it reminds me of. And there's like this apex crown to it, like that. And on the top of the flower particularly, there's like baby flowers that haven't opened yet. They're just little petals. Okay, I think I can draw a blue bonnet now. I get it, for the most part. I understand how they should look. And it's like, what happens is now as I zoom out from this flower, the things that you're only going to see are the bud on top and the stem, this main section, and the bud. My point would even translate if I zoomed out. Yeah. Even if I zoom out more, you can see that you kind of make out there's something different from the tip to the body to the stem. That's all I have to keep in mind when it comes to my paint strokes later on with the paintbrush. And I just have to be careful of not muddying up the top piece. Okay. That's pretty much enough of study here. I'm going to go back down and I'm just going to toss in some of this foliage that's on the bottom because it looks cool. There's actually another branch coming off of it like this. Interrupted by some leaf here. But then shoots out. Actually, I was wrong, but I'll just make that into another blue bonnet next to it. think the most challenging thing to line drawing foliage is that almost every single leaf is placed differently in 3D perspective because of the nature of how they hang, and to really be mindful of that for every leaf is, particularly line drawing, is very time consuming and thoughtful. But that's what's so cool about painting is, you can get one dab of the brush and on accident, if you get the right dab, all the leaves are like turned and perfect in perspective just by the way they're highlighted, because the brain does the rest of the work. It's about creating the illusion. But when it comes to line drawing, you have to be a bit more accurate. It says that the shape of the petals resembles the bonnet worn by pioneer women to shield them from the sun. You have the best fun facts about this painting. It's awesome. It's cool to know. I can see that. They are strangely shaped. They could easily look like something else out of context. Like if I plucked this petal out and I put it in a different drawing and took out the pillow in the center and shaded it differently, it could probably look like something totally different. That's the power of shapes in drawing. I'm going to improvise this last one here and completely take off the training wheels. And for this one, I'm going to try to imagine what it looks like from behind. I would say this flower overlaps that one. Let's see. That kind of looks what it could look like from behind. Makes sense to me. And this picture is a picture of it in like heavy brush, so it's kind of crazy. There's maybe one more important, just for the perspective, one coming out here. Kind of like that. I drew into my flower a little bit. That's okay. I find drawing from my mind to be a lot like improvising on an instrument. I'm always drawing wrong lines and trying to increase my accuracy, of course, but there's an art to hiding the mistake for sure. I think all artists could attest to that. Alright. We're going about 3 hours to wrap up this stream. I'm going to watercolor it, this last thumbnail for fun, and we'll wrap it up there for the day. Grab my round brush, they call it. And there's actually a lot of purple in this flower. It's not all just blue. So actually, what I have to do first here is clean my little palette. And I have a little towel I get, and just, this is the best part about, another best part about watercolor. So easy to clean. Look at that. I don't even have to wipe it yet. It's already gone. Acrylic, I'm like in the sink with a scraper for like 5 minutes. That's why I switched to a glass palette with my other paints, because it's so much easier. You just get a razor blade. You can pretty much get it off dry. It's awesome. I realized the music. Forgot to unmute the music, my fault. Must have been awkward and quiet, just me talking like that, my fault. It's always good to have a little ambience in the moments of silence. I muted it earlier for the video. It's been 12 days since I've streamed. I'm a little rusty with the controls. Okay, so my palette's cleaned. Gotta zoom back in. ultramarine blue. Then clean my brush quick. I find it's always good to have a rag nearby at watercolor. Control that brush. And I'm gonna grab magenta. Why magenta, you ask? Well, I find that magenta and ultramarine blue, or magenta and blue, make a stronger purple than straight up just red and blue. It's a more vibrant, bright violet that doesn't require as much white to brighten. All come in 7 different hues. Wow. What a flower. Well, I'm definitely studying the one that has purpley blue hues. I would say that the majority of the flower is actually purple. And the edges are blue. I'll show you what I mean in the coloring here. So I'm gonna I need a drink of water. I realized talking for 3 hours straight makes your mouth turn into a desert. You can probably relate there, Auntie Laura, being a teacher. So, I'm going to slowly introduce the magenta into the blue, because it's predominantly blue, and magenta is a very, very strong color. However, it is closer to blue, and that's why it reacts in a more analogous manner and creates a brighter violet. You can mix a primary red with a primary blue for purple. I mean, that's what they teach you in square one of mixing color, but I find it's very dark if you use a true phthalo blue or ultramarine blue and you mix it with a true red, crimson red, or even vermilion red, which just means it's more towards the orange side. It comes out really dark. And I'm going to get a puddle of water going on the other side of the palette. And let's see how this purple comes out here. I'm going to do a purple wash over every petal. And then I'll bring out the blue after that. I'm learning watercolor, and I'm told that it's good to wash. And what I mean when I say wash is just a thin, light layer. And just I'm training myself to remember that everything is gonna react with everything, and that is the discipline of watercolor. So that's the base. That's the base purple color I'm seeing, more or less. It's genuinely a bit darker in real life, but because this is watercolor, I'm gonna allow it to be a little bit more desaturated and soft. And speaking of saturation, that's why I like acrylics versus watercolors. They're very, very vibrant, and you can get these really, really nice effects with them if used right. and like bright beams of sunlight like bouncing off metal, like a metal can or like stuff like that. The whites can be really, really intense. The yellows can be really, really intense, and that's why I like it. But that's why I like the gouache with the watercolor, because the gouache with the watercolor allows you to bring out those really vibrant colors along with the soft washes. So combining the best of both worlds. So I feel like eventually the majority of my pieces are going to be gouache watercolor. It's just, I'll always love acrylic. I'm going to be doing, it's probably going to be like a 70-30 thing. And the main reason for that is because most of them end up being little sketches in a sketchbook like this, because it's really portable, and you know, I don't need a canvas. You can't really there's no such thing as a canvas sketchbook. I mean, there is, but it gets thick real fast. You don't want that stuff bending too, because paint can crack. Now, I'm not even gonna have to grab any more color. I'm just gonna grab the blue and see. Accent just the edges. And I'm not going crazy making this perfect. This is me being a student to the flower. But what I love about the green in the stem is that it's a very bright yellow oriented green, much towards yellow, lime green. And I have a feeling watercolor is really good at making a nice lime green. I think I'm gonna have to really quickly here. I think I'm missing a color on my palette. What is this green here? Okay, so that's the aqua green. If that's the aqua green, then this one's gotta be, yeah, that's the straight up green. So I thought, okay, it's Viridian. This is like cobalt or something. Emerald green. Is this the emerald green? It is the emerald green. Okay, so that's emerald green. I have to remind myself of some of these colors. Did I get any other kind of green is my question. I did not. That's fine. I can make the color anyway. I just wanted to make sure I had my max palette here. It's kind of an orchestrated dance how this stuff fits in here. But it fits just enough. Okay. Yes, Tetris paint box. Test out this lime green here. Yes. So my guess, well, I have that. Okay. So that's that. I remember what I did now. I had green gouache. This is the green gouache. So I had green gouache that I was using for like the straight up green. Okay. Remember what I did now. Cool. But I already found the green. I do want to see what emerald green and yellow make though. I want to see if I can get that. Just to know while I'm here, while I'm practicing. Because I fear that it's a bit too... I know what the right answer is. It's sap green and lemon yellow, but I have to see for myself. And I'll show you the difference right now. So, go right here. This would be the lime green, whatever you want to call it. And then this would be, I'm sorry, that would be like lemon, like the yellow green I meant, and this would be the lime green. So, big difference there. And now I just want to see the sap green and the yellow. Because I just need to know. I need to confirm my knowledge. So that I never have to second guess it again. I don't have enough yellow to convert it fully. And that's also way more pigment. But I was correct. It's comforting. It's comforting to know that I'm starting to understand color. I think with sap green it has some other things in it that don't make it a true green. So there's some other reactions happening. But luckily with the remaining paint, I have already found the color I need. So without further ado, I'm gonna base color all these. Now here's where I don't want it to bleed too much. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to zoom back in, my fault. There we go. And the bud, which is actually a little bit of a desaturated green. So I'm gonna grab some watercolor white, not gouache white, and mix it in with the lime green I had. Gonna dab out the water a little. And that's gonna be the color up here. I'm seeing another blue bonnet flower right here. Just gonna color that in. Purple bonnet. This is the purple bonnet. Cool. And for fun, because we made this green, we just put a wash of. I'm gonna make it slap. I'm gonna allow the watercolor to make globs like that because behind it, in the reference photo I have, it's like a brush, just thick brush. And so to imitate that, I'm literally just gonna grab random colors and let the watercolors just see what happens organically with them. And just kind of make a vague, you know, essentially what I'm imitating is like if you had a camera and the background was blurred out. And to bring a little bit more realism into it, I'm gonna grab a little bit of this blue and just toss it in there. Maybe there's a blue bonnet right there, out of focus on the side. Maybe there's another one. Another blue bonnet out of focus. Maybe there's, yeah, that's what it is. Out of focus blue bonnets. Some back there. Maybe one more. Another one there. Ah. Didn't finish my wash. Oop, that was a bit juicy there. Get that green in there too. There. And then fill in the wash on the bottom left. Oh, see, that's fun. How that watercolor kind of did that on its own. I wanna learn how to weave that. Watercolor weaving. And because I can't resist, where's my paper towel? Oh, I just had it next to me. I know the Indian paintbrushes, they're more stabby looking. Not really getting the shape of them right now, but that's okay. Alright, that's enough. That's fine. I'm having fun at this point, practicing watercolor because it just feels good to use. Let that dry a second here. Do another quick review of what we've done today. I'm gonna go through all my iterations again here. I'm not gonna bother zooming into the individual ones. It's a little bit difficult. I've been this is really you see some of my Instagram posts. This is the sketchbook that they come from. Some of them, like that one. That's where the naked people have started. Oh, that's where that one is. Now it's suddenly a sketchbook tour. My fisheye practice. A little computer chair. Look who it is. Playing Scrabble. I like this one. This would be considered the original of the print that's for sale. But the original isn't for sale, I'm sorry. Only that limited print. And so this is a good example of what I mean when I'm talking about fisheye auntie. This is an extreme example here. And I'm wanting to bring a little bit of this element into your painting, and the only difference is it's not going to be a 4-point, it's going to be a 3-point, which just means that it won't curve again towards itself. It'll just go out forever, which I think makes it look a little bit more natural, but makes it more realistic. It gives it this like style. I don't know. It looks cool. The hands. Anyway, I'm just having fun looking through my sketchbook now. I'm gonna go back to the ones I did today. I probably shouldn't have folded that over. I was right. See? Bled onto the other one. Oh well, it's dry now. Okay, so started here. I think there is an idea that I could pull off with the horizon up, but it just puts too much emphasis on the ground. And yeah, we can do it like this. It's just a little more difficult for me to keep it in the camera, but it's fine. Just get it from stop. Go a little back. There we go. Okay, so this first one. Like I said, the horizon's too high, and it puts too much emphasis on the foliage and the grass, and then it doesn't allow me to fit the house, and the house especially, the truck will fit, but you won't see the top of the house. The roof will like go above the screen. Same with these. These are all high horizon line experiments. Oh, sorry. Same with these next two here. We're all high horizon line experiments, and after those three, I quickly knew that it wasn't what I wanted to do. So I got rid of the high horizon, and I brought it to a little bit more of a half, which when a horizon line is directly half, it kind of makes it look like you're standing and just looking perfectly eye level straight up. And that's the reason why I don't necessarily like to do half. It tends to feel a little more realistic when it's slightly down or slightly up, or drastically down or drastically up. Because in real life, we don't really view anything perfectly square on. And what I mean by that is most objects in your life you don't see like this. You have to kind of set yourself up to see it like that. Most objects in your life you see like this, or like that, or like this, or like that, or like this, or you know, it's never. And even if it's slightly like you're looking at something on a table and it's pretty close, it's still kind of like that. Which that's still vanishing off that way. So I find that like true 1-point perspective, it doesn't happen often, but it's cool for cool things. Like if you want to do like a high school hallway with a bunch of lockers or something, and you want to be standing directly in the center of the lockers, that could be a cool drawing. There's uses for it, but in realism, life tends to be more 2-point, 3-point, 4-point, or 3-point, I should say. It's mainly always 3-point. So after I did that one, I was like, okay, I'm moving it slightly down from the center, like I said. And it immediately looked better. It immediately made me feel like I was standing over this fence. I was about 5 feet tall. And I was looking into the yard. And then it's like, okay, so I wanted to run with the horizon line here. And I particularly like the placement of this house and this shed. I'm still not ruling out a shed. And this one I kept the horizon in the same spot, roughly. But the whole idea behind it was, well, what if there's like, you know, this guy that lives here, or whoever lives here, or just this place has a lot of trees in it, heavily foliated. So that was this idea, just lots of trees, thick, you know, a little room for light to shine through, sunbeam. Next one, which I think is still one of my top favorite, that I drew yesterday. You can see where the paint got here on accident because I didn't let it dry. Overall placement, horizon line, everything. Obviously, besides the truck being turned towards us, I like this one a lot. This one was my my 31st human today. That was my doodle. I like this one a lot too. The horizon line is slightly higher than the ones on the previous page, very slightly higher. And what I did is I brought the truck closer, I brought the house closer, I made the house smaller. Well, actually, there's an error in this one. The truck was right, the house was wrong. This should have been probably this high. The house should have been a little bit bigger because my intention was to bring the house closer to me in the camera shot. Because you can see here in this one, the scale of the truck to the house is correct. If I go to this one, it's like the truck would take up the entire volume of the house. You know what I mean? So that's the one thing I messed up. But that in mind, you know, when I look at this going back later, I'm gonna know what I want to do, and I'm gonna know how to fix that the second time. And I would go, and then if I picked this as my thumbnail, I would go and correct that error. But I really like how the truck is slightly with that little fisheye, and it's kind of getting drawn back. I like how that kind of turned out. I want to capture that with the truck. I think this is my favorite angle of the truck, and I really like this nice big round bumper, and it just looks good. It looks good going into the grass, disappearing into the grass, that shape. I just like it. It looks like a tire that got buried, and just a nice shape. And I just like my choice of the blue bonnets up front. And yeah, this one's a big candidate. Besides the house error, so you know, it would probably be like that. The trees would, the roof would be just about hitting the top of the frame, and then it would come out a little bit farther. This was a truck study from behind, just a barbed wire fence study to get an idea of how they do the wires correctly, and just kind of how that looks. And then the last two. This was a study of just kind of like a yard shed, had the bent tin roof. I like how this one came out. I like the white flowers. I think I'm definitely going to include some white ones. Man, I really love this pen and ink watercolor style, like in tiny thumbnail form for working out ideas. So good. And then, last but not least, the blue bonnet study. Get a closer look at the flower. So even when I'm drawing it far away, it's going to help me make the brush stroke the right shape. So, without further ado, thank you so much, everyone that tuned in and hung out for this stream. It's good to be back. I know I haven't streamed in a little while, but it goes on and off in waves, you know. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Sunday night, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much. Take care.